one of the guys that attacked us 2 years ago in the playoffs in that ball screen, that pick and roll. I think that's one of his strengths. Defensively, he's a guy that picks up full court. So he's a two-way player and a guy that we talked a lot about whenever we went up against the team he was playing for.
You talk about the job being open, but what was your message to Cory when you first talked to him about the role here and what is?
Oh, it was done deal when, so it wasn't trying to sell him on anything, and I haven't really. I just welcomed him. We haven't talked about philosophy or roles or anything like that. That conversation will come here, pretty shortly. But he's a guy that has played the backup position and has played sometime at that starting guard position. So I think he's capable of doing both. Darren is a guy that we picked up in free agency as really the starting guy. But we'll see how things go once we get into training camp. And, both of those guys, I know they compete every second that they're on the floor, on both ends of the floor. They both bring experience to the roster. And it'll be good to have, those guys competing for those minutes.
Do you feel like your defense will be better in the backcourt next season? And if so, how much?
Well, we're going to look to take advantage of what those guys are capable of doing. And both Darren and Cory are guys that can get after it. They can, pressure the ball. They can disrupt with their defense. Offensively, they push the ball. They attack in the pick and roll. So we're going to take advantage of, what those guys bring to the floor. And I think they're two-way guys.
The competition, is this by design? You brought guys in, you mentioned them being starters, but it seems like it looks like there's going to be a healthy competition at the point, healthy competition at the three.
Well, we will, as I've always done, regardless of who's starting and who's coming off the bench, we want these guys to be competing for the minutes. And, that opportunity will be for them to earn the right to be out there. And I really don't think it makes a difference who starts or who comes off the bench. We want them to be productive. We want them to be competitive. And, we feel like when you have good competition like that, it's going to make everybody better. So I don't think that will be a problem. Both of these guys have had some experience starting. Darren certainly has been in a starting role a lot longer, and Cory has been really, one of the top 6 men, coming in off the bench. And, so I haven't talked to him to really see where he's comfortable at, but I kind of see him in that role, and we'll take advantage of, whatever they are comfortable with.
What do you like most about Cory in this game?
I like the fact that he competes, and I just remember him 2 years ago in the playoffs, going up against Toronto, and he was a guy that we had to prepare for. He had a good series against us. He was a guy that defensively disrupted our rhythm, and just a pest out there. And whenever I am involved in, trading for a guy or picking a guy up in free agency, I always think about, how much did we have to prepare for him? And if I didn't have to prepare for you, then I'm not too happy getting you. And he was one guy we had to prepare for. We talked about him a lot. We talked about him just as much as we talked about DeRozan and Cal. So he was a guy that came off the bench that, the energy just picked up when he got into the game, and he had an impact on that series. So really happy to have him on board.
Is there a value to bringing in a guy with kind of a winning pedigree, having been a part of deep playoff runs in both San Antonio and Toronto?
Well, I think it's definitely important that he comes from that culture. He's experienced that, and so he's going to want to continue and to bring that. I think we're bringing in a guy who's hungry to prove himself, and he fits right into the group of guys that we have traded for this offseason.
Thanks, Coach.